It is the post-game edition of It's Always Game Day in Cleveland, brought to you by our friends locally, Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling service. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. I don't know how they did it, but the Browns won 20-17. It was ugly football until the fourth quarter, and then somehow, some way, as I've heard 6 or 7 times from walking from the field level up here, the words Kardiac Kids seem to be appearing in Northeast Ohio, especially after that Hail Mary that ended the game. Daryl, your first thoughts?
I'm going to need the paddles by the time this season is over. I mean, my goodness gracious. This is from ESPN stats and information. Apparently, the Browns now with 5 game-winning scores in regulation in the final 2 minutes is a franchise record for them. They've never done that before. Dustin Hopkins with his 4th game-winning field goal late. I mean, look, they were dead and buried there at the beginning of the fourth quarter when they fell behind 17-7. It looked bleak. Joe Flacco had 3 interceptions, and you're sitting there thinking, all right, just get them next week in Houston. That's the one that they really, really have to have, Andy. And the Browns do what the Browns do, and that is find ways to win football games. I mean, Joel Bitonio, they lost him. They were down. Wyatt Teller is the last man standing on the offensive line. Do we know
the extent of the Bitonio injury at this point?
Yeah, we got to visit with Joel for like 30 seconds. I mean, he was struggling to move. He said that his back gave out on him. He can't walk or move very well right now. We actually impeded his route to the trainer's room.
Oh, wow.
So sorry about that, Joel. We apologize. We love you. But so a little concerned obviously there, but it's incredible to me, no matter what is getting thrown at this football team from an injury standpoint. They were without 3 more starters again today. Then they lose Joel Bitonio in the middle of the game too.
Denzel Ward played today, but didn't play as much as he could have.
Right.
There were some other plays he could have got in there. So.
Right. They limited his,
right.
He was on a snap count there, but man, they keep finding ways to win. I mean, where did the shout outs begin? Joe Flacco, overcoming the 3 interceptions. Like, it felt like this was going to be the 4-pick Flacco special, and found a way. The ball he threw to Amari Cooper, that Amari tightrope down the sidelines into the end zone. I've seen those throws on television, Andy. That's the first time I saw that in person. I have never seen a throw that good in person, that precise, and especially in that moment to tie the football game. David Njoku, 10 catches, a career-high 100-plus yards receiving, an incredible touchdown in the back of the end zone where he was in by, I think, a blade of grass, to the point of I thought they were actually going to overturn it because, well, that's how the NFL
I was like,
works.
Hurry up, kick the extra point.
Right. But those are automatically reviewed, and they said play stands. We'll just we'll leave it alone. It was a crazy football game, and again, shout out and kudos to Kevin Stefanski and the Browns. They found a way yet again.
So Daryl, as I keep watching these games, these are the games in the past the Browns should have won, and they've lost. Now they're on the other side of it, and I think a little bit of it has to do with the parity in the NFL, but the other thing is this team has a little bit of magic to it, and that's okay, because to make the playoffs, you have to have a little bit of magic. It's not like every team has perfect seasons, and the Browns have been able to figure out a way time and time again to pull off these wins. And Dustin Hopkins, the trade for him at the beginning of the season, and the kahunas to let Cade York go in the beginning of the year continues to pay his dividends for the front office, because let's face it, that was something they didn't want to do. They did it, and now it's the best move maybe the front office has made since '99 if they keep winning.
Well, here's another thing, too. The Browns' home field advantage paid off today. The Chicago Bears were afraid to kick field goals here. Like, I mean, they didn't try the 55-yarder before halftime.
Right, I thought that was going to happen.
Right? They didn't play to try and get the game-tying field goal there in the final minute.
What were they? They were looking at it as probably a 60-yarder.
But I'm just saying, right? all they needed to do was just get another 10 yards to try and attempt around a 55-yarder. Like, they were legit concerned about coming into this building and getting a football kicked through the uprights. I mean, that's some pretty good home field advantage here. And I was joking with Dustin Hopkins after the game. I said, so has this place lived up to the hype? And he goes, yeah, I know we haven't had the snow, but yeah, because they've had some wind, they've had some rain. And
it's a slick field. I mean, there's no question it was slick.
It was slick. He even joked that the sun came out right at the right time. And
it did.
He said on the sideline, well, maybe this is an omen for us. And it turned out it was. But my goodness gracious, that Hail Mary, it was in the breadbasket on the ground. There's an actual photo of the play circulating on social media right now where the receiver is sitting down, the ball is in his hands, and his caption, imagine this was not a completion.
Right.
So, and D'Anthony Bell, the rookie who had to step in today with all the injuries at safety, he is able to, help pop that ball free and come up with that interception, run out to the 1 yard line, and then fall down to seal the victory. I mean, the theme inside the locker room right now, Andy, is that it's not just this, because we hear this all the time, right? You've been around a long time. I have as well. And we tend to roll our eyes every time we hear that next man up thing get tossed at us. But with this team, it really is. And we're hearing guys talk about they don't change things when they have injuries. Jim Schwartz is not changing up the defense because he lost his 2 starting safeties. They're still running man. They're still running their system. They are trusting Ronnie Hickman and D'Anthony Bell and anyone else that steps on the field, trusting those guys that they're going to come in and just do their job. And because, and I think that that's somewhat important because typically what happens, you do make those adjustments. You can over adjust, you can overcorrect, right? But inherently, you're also telling those guys that are coming in, we don't believe in you. That's why we have to change things around.
Right.
And so even look at the offensive line today, right? I mean, they still threw it a ton. They tried running it, couldn't get much going on the ground. But
less than 30 yards on the ground. I mean, that was eye-popping when you see it on the scoreboard at the end of the game. But Joe Flacco was able to throw for over 300 again and over 40 times. I mean, the guy looks good for his age. There's no question about it. And there's something about the swagger and confidence he has at the end of the game that we've seen from so many quarterbacks that have rolled into this stadium and have been able to beat the Browns at the end of the game where you said, oh, here we go. Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger. The list goes on and on of all those really good established quarterbacks that have been able to succeed in the playoffs, and then they just douse any flame or any hope that you have as a Browns fan. Now we've got Joe Flacco on our side after 3 weeks, and I'm shaking my head, but it's there, and it's very real.
It really is. And, Greg Newsome mentioned this in the locker room too, because I asked him about, not to say that they didn't have belief before,
right?
But the fact that Joe Flacco comes off a couch and into that locker room and has immediate success, okay? And he's 2-1 as the starter right now, all right? And that really gives them, and Greg said this, and a couple players also echoed kind of the theme that came from my conversation just with Greg was, the resume.
Right.
He's won a Super Bowl. He has been in these situations. He came into this building last year and won a game late. So it's easy for them to believe. And that's not to say that they didn't believe in PJ Walker or DTR.
He put DTR on the field today and got a huge play on 4th down.
Right. But, we talk about guys stepping out. Cameron Mitchell tripping up Justin Fields on that 4th down. Shoestring tackle. A half a yard shy of the sticks. He jumped past them, but he was actually down a half yard shy of the sticks. Just little plays like that. They're finding ways to make them. It's not perfect football. It's not pretty football. The Bears punted it 10 times. The Browns punted it 9 times. It was a punt off for most of the game. 2 of Flacco's interceptions were turned into touchdowns. 1 actually taking back to the house.
Right.
And then the other, the Bears offense.
Although the defense did a great job of trying to stop them from going into the end zone. And, that pass interference call was not a fan favorite inside the building.
Well, no, but
I think she could have called holding. I don't know that.
Right.
It looked more like a hold than it did a pass interference.
And to me, it looked like an offensive hold. But, that series was bizarre because the ball's like at the 1 blade of grass line. And they called the defense for 12 men on the field twice. You had the DPI on Martin Emerson. Then you had they went for the tush push and had a false start. So that, I'm just like, is this series ever going to end sometime before I die at this point? But that was a bizarre sequence. But it's just the ebbs and flows of games and things like that. And again, they were down 17-7 in the fourth quarter, and they did not allow that to discourage them on the sidelines. And how many times have we seen over the years, Andy? I mean, this season would have been over years ago,
Weeks ago, yes.
Yeah,
it probably could have been over when Nick Chubb got hurt.
Right, because Jack Conklin and Nick Chubb done, okay, well, that there goes that. And then when Deshaun really went down, that was like really the boat is supposed to sink.
Right.
And that hasn't happened with this team. And that's why, I hope Browns fans are enjoying this. I hope that even if it comes with a little bit of cardiac arrest along the way, but that fans are appreciating what this football team is accomplishing in spite of the amount of players that they have lost. And we're not talking role players. We are talking starters, 2 starting safeties. You're starting offensive line 4 of the 5 are out right now. You lost your starting all-pro running back, your franchise quarterback that you invested a ton of money in, right? I mean, how much more can this team sustain and keep this thing going? And they're showing it, hey, bring it on. That just seems to be their type of mentality right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I may have missed a play or two along the way after we were watching the game, but it was miraculous, the offensive line for the Bears, because they, if I'm correct, they never held Myles Garrett once in this game, did they? Not once. What an amazing feat for the Chicago Bears to not hold him once. Although on TV, I did notice a couple times, but for some reason, the referees just didn't notice it. 25,000 that cost him to get 0 calls today. Yeah. Right? Am I mistaken? Did they have a hold on him?
No, did not get a single call today. And the commissioner's in the house too, on top of it. Like, how do you, and look, I'm usually one to defend players. I always respect and appreciate when they do speak their mind.
Right.
And I'm not going to criticize a guy regardless whether he's, coming after me.
I thought for sure it would draw attention to him that he would get at least 1 or 2 calls.
I thought for sure too, but I mean, I don't know what he has to do to get a call. This is now 4 straight games that he's not been able to have a sack. And the reason he doesn't have a sack is he keeps getting held all the time. A couple of times he was within a whisker of Justin Fields, but he's being held and they're not throwing the flag. I don't know why. LeBron cries about calls and the whistles start blowing.
But early on in his career, although it's not the same, but early on in his career, he'd cry sometimes and be like, well, what's going on?
Well, Myles isn't a rookie though. Like, he's been in the league since 2017. It's like they are penalizing him for being as dominant and as good of a player. Like, oh, that's okay. They should be allowed to hold you because you're really, really good. And that's just not how this thing's supposed to work. But again, right? I mean, these are little itty bitty things that would derail a season or a game. And that isn't happening this year. They're 9-5, Andy. They are a win away potentially from locking up a playoff spot as we have this discussion.
Yeah, will the Bengals game matter? That was not a question that came up earlier today. And I was like, I never really thought about that.
Right. As we have this discussion now, we're recording this right after the Browns game here on a Sunday evening. They're the number 5 wild card. They are, no matter what happens, they're in front of the Bengals. If the Bengals and Browns have the same record, the Cleveland Browns are in front of them no matter what, because Cincinnati has sucked within the division. They've yet to win a divisional game. Again, I say that as we have the discussion right now. Whereas the Browns, I believe, are 3-1.
But the Browns are in the AFC all the rest of the way out here, too.
Right. And so they have that tiebreaker over them. Next week's game against Houston becomes a really important game. They got the padding they need. So even if they don't beat the Texans on Christmas Eve, then that's going to be a tough trip to Houston for a variety of reasons. It's hard traveling, being away from the family, Christmas Eve, things like that. They have a little cushion, some play there. The Jets come to town on Thursday Night Football after Christmas. And then, of course, they wrap up in Cincinnati. But as we speak right now, this was such a huge win because it keeps them in the driver's seat. They were in the driver's seat to begin with. They stay there. And, we'll see what the NFL comes out with next week. I've been awaiting my Tuesday emails with anticipation because I want to see if there's a clinch scenario involving the Cleveland Browns. And we might get one. We'll see. I mean, it might be the Browns have to win and like 10 teams have to lose, but There's a very good or real possibility the Browns might be included in the league clinch scenarios for next weekend. And that's where we're at right now in the season. How great is that?
Sounds good. All right, so here's the other thing, too. When we come back and talk to you during our regular podcast throughout the week, we'll know what happened tonight in the Jacksonville-Baltimore game, so that changes some things up, too. Our next podcast drops, Monday night, Tuesday morning. So when that hits, it hits. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin for our producer, Meredith Kane. Thanks for watching. It's always game day in Cleveland, the post-game edition. 20-17, the Browns a winner over the Bears. We'll talk to you twice this week.